now so many patients consume media electronically and on the internet, and making sure that we don't convolute ourselves within that and maintaining a degree of professionalism, but also validity within the content that we produce. Unfortunately, and fortunately, maybe sometimes get information from TikTok and bring it to us and say, I heard this. And then if anything, what I say is just use it as an opportunity to open the floor around discussion of certain topics.
Hello, everyone. I am super excited because we have another fantastic guest, Dr. Love Nafi. I'm just going to give you a little opportunity to say hello to our audience and tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey to medicine.
Oh, wow. That is a loaded question to start with. But yes, I'm Love Nafi, and I am actually a physician and also creative. I love to do film and have done a lot of arts over the last several years. My journey into medicine, in high school, I was really kind of, I guess, gifted in science and tech. And that led me to actually apply to only 3 medical schools at the time, because I had in mind that, if I didn't get in, I would go do art somewhere. And I ended up getting into the University of Maryland School of Medicine. And then since then, it's been history. But I guess on a personal note, I had grandparents who are immigrants, and they didn't have great preventative health care. And I kind of saw them deteriorate faster than I would expect because of that. And that kind of inspired me to do what I can in the areas of women's health, preventative medicine, family medicine, as well as integrative medicine and holistic healthcare as well.
That's awesome. That's a great story. And a lot of, I'm sure our listeners are kind of inspired by their family members and the experiences that they've gone through. But as you mentioned, you have other interests outside of medicine, as we all should. So you're a physician, but you're also a filmmaker. How were you able to explore your passions outside of medicine?
Wow. So, actually, I was blessed to go to a school called the Gallatin School of Individualized Study. And that's the school I went to when I was at NYU. And really, it allowed me to formulate my own major and defend it as a thesis, which a lot of undergraduates do not get to do. So through that, I was able to, take a lot of coursework in different areas, and also, I guess, figure out a way where, humanism, art, and medicine all collide. And I feel like we don't usually allow ourselves to do that. And I think, actually when I was applying to medical school, that is the thing that people enjoyed the most. And I think it's also a little bit of crazy too in me, in the fact that I was in medical school and I was taking film classes and, driving all over the place, doing like digital creative projects and all my friends. So I was a little off, but for whatever reason, I felt like I needed to, because it was my outlet to feel, like I was still being my full authentic self.
I love that, because I feel as though a lot of people, and I explore this with a lot of our guests, kind of get lost in that identity of being like, I'm a doctor and I'm supposed to do doctor things. And when I'm applying for school, like I need to only volunteer at hospitals and all that. And that's great. That's fine. If it's your passion, it's your mission, if it's what you love, great. But you can be a complete person, and being a doctor can just be like part of your identity. It doesn't have to be your whole identity. So most of our listeners are either pre-med or med students. How would you advise someone to practice medicine in a way that allows them to remain creative so that they don't get kind of lost in that like doctor mentality?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. I think for me in this scenario, one way that I found kind of a bridge was through humanism in medicine and medical ethics. I felt, I also served, so funny, my career in medicine kind of goes different forks, different places, but I was in the military as well, and I did military medicine, and I served as residency faculty at Fort Belvoir Community Hospital, which is now AT Augusta military medical center. So there I actually did a lot of humanism and medicine, and I did medical ethics, but also DEI. But then I got a little bit minority tax. So I said, don't want to do that no more. But within that, though, the creativity and, building curriculum was nice. And also just realizing, too, that as students and teaching and things like that, they also want to kind of flow those creative juices as well, and kind of sometimes take a break from thinking solely in the clinical realm. And that can be just something as simple as going to an art gallery, or taking, the residents or medical students to things like that. We also had things like Journal Club, where we would explore literary texts and narrative medicine and listen to people's stories and analyze them, which I also found a lot of, bridging there as well.
That's so true. Like just taking the time to even think or talk about it, and advocating for schools if they don't have programs like this to incorporate it, because you can explore these interests. And even if your interest is in art, like still making time for the things that you love. If you love running or exercising or going to travel and things, although your time may be a little more limited in medical school and residency, you can still make time and space for the things that you want to make time for.
Right. And I think I just add to that, being someone who's been on the other end of recruiting and medical students or residents, I think that we all want to see people honor their authentic selves. So if you do have a passion, don't let medicine be the end of that just because, I think we also kind of think as medicine as, unfortunately, in the society we live in, a self-consuming task where a lot of doctors don't have time. But in reality, in other countries, people can be healers, but also be so many other things as well. So we just have to keep that in mind.
Absolutely. Like, I love that you said people can be healers, but they can be something else. So definitely explore what your something else is. Now back to your other something else. You recently had a film come out. Can you tell us a little bit about your latest film and why it's important for the audience to see?
Wow. So, I recently co-wrote and directed a film titled C.R.O.W.N. And its story is kind of full circle here because during college is when I met my current partner who we did the film together. And she was also pre-med with me, but she didn't end up becoming a doctor. I'm the one who became the doctor, and she ended up teaching and running her own performing arts academy and dance studio called Abundance Academy of the Arts in Brooklyn. So, we kind of both were different and took different paths, but it's so funny that we come together now to tell this story. It really follows a young girl who is prepping for the biggest audition of her life, but has to get her hair into a bun. And with 4C or natural Afro-American hair, that can be a challenge. So we use that to kind of encapsulate that story in a 20-minute short film. We look at dynamics of, Black hair, also, mother-daughter relationships. And also we play with elements and themes surrounding the C.R.O.W.N. Act, which, is a rally against hair discrimination in workplaces and in so many other environments. And I know that we all can attest to different stories around our hair, even within medicine. So I think that this story is very important to tell, especially with seeing the reversal of so many different laws now coming about. Hopefully this stands the chance that they've been able to pass the C.R.O.W.N. Act in different places. But, I think this story is still so important. Also just allowing people to, again, honor their authentic selves and live in their true identity. Always.
I love that. And for our listeners out there, I know that a lot of you are from different diverse backgrounds and you may not know what we're actually talking about in terms of 4C and different textures and all of those things. But I think that's I'm not going to call it part of the problem. I'm going to call this conversation part of the solution. So you're going to have patients from all different backgrounds. And for the listeners out there, people usually of African descent may have tighter textures and things like that. And there are different pathways in order to treat and care for it than the traditional Eurocentric hair So whether or not you're going into dermatology, you're going to have to learn about different textures. If you're going into primary care, oh, they're going to be coming into you to talk about what's going on with their hair loss, what can they do. So it's great to kind of explore these things. And then from DEI or equity lens, you also should be thinking about your classmates and your colleagues. My personal story, when I was interviewing for residency, I have natural hair. I'm sure you guys who watch us on YouTube see my hair different every month or week. I switch it up. But with that being said, I felt pressured in order to wear a straight wig when I was doing my interviews because I didn't want additional bias to affect where I landed for residency. And now I see that as something I probably wouldn't do at this stage in my life. But there are so many different barriers out there, and these conversations need to happen. So I'm excited that you're opening the lens and letting people have a viewpoint into what's going on in African American hair and personalities and all of the struggle.
No, I mean, really. And honestly, I would say for people, because we had a screening in New York and we actually have one in the DMV coming up July 30th. But I would say that, you know, it really can pertain to anybody, right? Like hair discrimination actually just does not apply to people of color. It applies to everybody. And I think, you know, there's a fine line between, you know, establishing uniformity in the workplace and, you know, determining what's presentable. But there's also, you know, making sure that we honor our hair textures and don't necessarily force people to do harmful things to them in order to feel belonged in the workplace. So, you know, just like you have your hair story, I think I had a perm when I did my residency applications. And then following that, somewhere along the line, I've had so many different hairstyles, but, you know, I had locks. And in the military paid for my schooling. And in order for me, at the time, locks were not allowed in the military. So when I went active duty and went into residency, I actually had to cut all of my locks off. So just things like that where, you know, was it really necessary? And now that the laws changed, all the people who may have went through strife at that time, you know, thinking about how those things play out.
That's so true. And even thinking about things like you said, it doesn't necessarily always have to be a hair texture thing. It could be someone who goes from a different background or something that has a nose ring in or has visible tattoos. There's always going to be something that you may find unique about yourself and celebrate that the realm of professionalism may try to shut down. And that doesn't mean that you're not a phenomenal physician and they shouldn't be able to judge those things. So it's important for us to have these conversations.
For sure, for sure.
So with you being in healthcare and the media space, a lot of students question, especially with a lot of social media that's going on, like how can students best utilize media in the healthcare space?
So when you say use media in the healthcare space, do they mean for their own personal use or for their own like endeavors or both?
I think it could be, it's not a specific question, but it could be in realm of both. Like there are students, of course, who are doing education to kind of meet patients where they are and let them understand things because, you know, a lot of times when we print out forms and things for them to read, they're going right in the trash can when they leave the room. So that's one aspect. But then I know that there are definitely people growing in the media space in terms who are marrying healthcare with media.
Right. It's a touchy, it can be like a touchy thing in the sense that I know there are a lot of like doctor influencers with, I think maybe me at one point, never really a doctor influencer, but I know I dabbled in the fitness realm and did that for a while. And, you know, I came to the conclusion that it wasn't me, but I think if it is you and it fits you and that's what you like to do, I feel that you should do that. I just think that now so many patients consume media electronically and on the internet, and making sure that we don't convolute ourselves within that and maintaining a degree of professionalism, but also validity within the content that we produce to make it kind of clear what's kind of like pop culture and what's not. And I know that can be challenging too, because we're almost trying to compete with them in some instances, trying to make sure that we stay relevant and we can connect with them. You know, a lot of patients, unfortunately and fortunately, maybe sometimes get information from TikTok and bring it to us and say, I heard this. And then if anything, what I say is just use it as an opportunity to open the floor around discussion of certain topics, for sure.
Absolutely.
But it can be a thing you have to balance.
Yes. It's balancing it and then as well as making sure that you're having reputable sources and spreading the true information and not perpetuating the falseness.
Yeah, and I just feel like sometimes too, and you want to make sure you maintain trust, and that's kind of what I found. Like, if you can meet patients halfway with things like that, it really goes a long way for trust. And maybe, if they brought to you something from an online source that really wasn't the great, but you share with them your own video that you made, that could also go a long way too. So I don't think it's all bad, and I don't think people should be discouraged to do it. I just think that they have to kind of do it in a way that honors their profession and also themselves.
Absolutely. Now we're coming to a close, and I want to ask you a question that I love to ask all of our guests, and it's so fascinating, the different types of responses we get. So we know that the U.S. healthcare system is so perfect, and there's nothing that we would absolutely change at all. But if you had a magic wand and you could change something about our healthcare system, what would that be?
Oh, wow. With primary care itself and me kind of seeing all our efforts and what we try to do to help people maintain healthy weight and, have the greatest preventative health, I wish we did more, or I wish as a health community and us as physicians played more of a role with younger kids from the very beginning and teaching them how to eat and establish healthy habits, and not really kind of from the periphery in the doctor's office and a 20-minute visit. I wish there was more of a way to kind of create a healthcare pipeline, the same way they kind of drilled the food pyramid to us, which was totally incorrect. Maybe there was another way to drill some kind of core tenets of healthcare from the very beginning to start to help our youth learn how to live healthily. And I think, I say youth because it really starts there. Even though I see adults and children, it really starts there. So that's one thing that I think maybe could have a positive influence, and be better able to be better equipped to battle the raging industry of food and all these things that are thrown at us that are so unhealthy every day. So yeah, that's one thing I would try to change.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Like, it starts early and you see the developments of what you're feeding your kids, whether or not you're giving them whole milk versus the chocolate and strawberry milk that they come in and they're like, they're drinking milk. Why are they overweight? So habits start early, and we should definitely work on changing the narratives of what we should be intaking into our bodies, because prevention is very important.
So important, yes, for sure.
So you share so many different pearls of wisdom with us today, and I appreciate that. I just want to give you an opportunity to say goodbye to our audience and let them know how they can reach out or even check out your films.
Awesome. So yeah, it's been a pleasure sitting down with you, Erkeda. Like, I really enjoyed myself. For me, all about me is on www.lovenafi.com. And you can pretty much follow me anywhere at love_Nafi. And honestly, I'm pretty accessible. If you shoot me an email and you have a question at info@lovenafi.com, I'd be happy to answer. And our film premiere for the DMV is on July 30th at the Greenbelt Historical Theater. Tickets are at crownthefilm.splashthat.com, and we would love to see you out. Even just let me know that you found us out on this podcast. That would be great if you end up coming in person. So yeah, I really, really appreciate the opportunity to share my story. And I just want to leave with this last thing, that when I was going through medical school and pre-med, I was told that I couldn't do both so many times. But I just want to let people know that really there's a space for you and however you want to run your life. And feel free to explore different parts of yourself, and don't let anyone try to put you in a box.
I love that. And for all of the listeners out there, definitely check everything out. This may actually air a little later than the 30th, but you can definitely go on Nafi and keep some updates and figure that out. If you guys have any requests for any specific topics or any specific guests, you can definitely reach out on my Instagram at Dr. DeGram, DOCTOR, the letter D, GRAM, or a med school's Instagram at medschoolcoach, and we will get back to you. But otherwise, see you next week with another fantastic guest. Bye.
Each episode of the Prospective Doctor podcast is brought to you by Med School Coach. To access articles, videos, webinars, and free tools to help you succeed on your journey toward medical school and beyond, visit our website, prospectivedoctor.com. We hope you tune in again next time.